From NJ.com, this is Talk is Cheap, a New York Giants podcast. We're talking Big Blue football all year round.
Welcome aboard, Giants fans, to episode 82 of Talk is Cheap, our New York Giants podcast right here on NJ.com. I'm Joe Julio, joined as always, and this time it's a different setting here as we're all in the same studio. I think for the first time ever we're together, along with James Cratch and Dan Duggan. It's weird I could see you guys. James, how's it going?
I'm going well, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing well. Dan?
Joe, good to see you.
Yeah, it's different, and hopefully it comes out and you guys like this podcast. We get to do this together in the studio. The Super Bowl is set. James, you're going to be heading down there. The Giants, of course, we know are not there. We're going to talk about how they can get there, but yeah, we're doing this together in studio, and it's Patriots, Falcons. So let's start there with a couple thoughts on the Super Bowl, and then we'll get into some Giants stuff. And how the Giants maybe can get there. You were up there, right, James, at Foxborough on Sunday? We're doing this podcast on a Tuesday morning.
Yes, I was there in Foxborough. Really never was a game much. I thought that the Steelers might have a chance, and the Patriots kind of had that first drive, the drop down there, had to settle for a field goal. But Pittsburgh just never really got in sync, and obviously the Patriots kind of pulled away in the second half. But the Patriots, I still look at them, and I don't really know how good that defense is yet. I think the Steelers losing Le'Veon Bell kind of changed that game, but we're going to really find out how good their defense is because we know how good the Atlanta offense is.
We do. I mean, they're amazing. And Dan, you used to cover teams up there in the Boston area, and then the Patriots part of that. It's amazing. It's every single year. It's 15 years Brady's been healthy for a full season and gone to 7 Super Bowls now. I mean, it's like you're running out of adjectives to describe what they do. It's like it's every year.
No, it's funny because now I'm removed from it. I'm up here, and I still talk to my father, and my sister's a big fan, and my friends, and they're always hemming and hawing, and they get so caught up in like one loss, and I'm just I step back, because now I'm around the Giants, who were a good team this year,
yeah,
and you see how many flaws they have. But when you watch the Patriots week in and week out, again, like the fans, they got all worked up, like they're going to be in the Super Bowl. I told my sister, I was like, book your trip, in November when I saw her at Thanksgiving or whatever it was, I said, book your trip, and she didn't, and she had to book it, yesterday, and a few more bucks than she would have spent in November. But you just see this team, and it's if they don't get to the AFC Championship game, it's the biggest shock in the world.
They've been to 11.
And so you kind of pencil that in, and then you looked at the AFC this year, and you just knew they weren't going to lose. I mean, people were panicking after that Texans game when they put up 34 points against the number one total defense in the NFL. They covered a 16-point spread, and people in New England were still panicking. It's really funny now for me to see it from both sides, but being on the outside, again, you're around other teams, you watch other teams, and you realize that they're just operating at another level. I mean, it really is amazing what they've done in this era.
It's crazy. James, you just said a couple minutes ago, we're not still sure how good their defense is. And they haven't faced really a great array of quarterbacks this year. The lead up to the Super Bowl, and they got Osweiler. But it doesn't really matter, it seems like, every year how good they are. And I always think they have flaws. And yet they win 14 games. They get to the Super Bowl. They're a machine. They really have become... I thought they were done 5 years ago. I'll admit it. When they started losing before the title game and the Ravens beat them, I was like, their best days are over, and now they're not. It's like they're back again.
Yeah, I just think they have this uncanny ability to always kind of put themselves in the best position. I think what Dan said, you win the AFC East every year, and you tend to get. When was the last time the Patriots didn't have a bye? I mean, I can't even think off the top of my head
6 years ago, maybe
something like that. I mean, so I think the fact they put themselves in that position to have the one game at home, and then you're going to the AFC title game helps them. But yeah, you look, it's like Chris Hogan became the story, and Chris Hogan, no offense to him, will probably have like 2 catches for 12 yards in the Super Bowl, and probably somebody else that we've never really heard of that'll step up for them. It's just, I think it's almost like a college program up there. The faces change, the names change. They kind of have interchangeable parts. They plug in, they plug out. I think Belichick kind of signs guys, and he's already figured out when he's going to cut them and how he's going to, do that and all that. But they're a very unique model for the NFL. I don't think you really can copy what they do up there. I mean, some teams have, and I don't think it's really worked that much. But they're a special team, and we'll see how good their defense is, obviously. But then again, I don't know if they're. I mean, I think if you look at defense, offense, if you want to say top scoring defense, top scoring offense, if you want to consider that a wash or something, then I think the Patriots might have the edge with their offense against Atlanta defense, which has been a lot better in recent weeks, but I still think they're kind of vulnerable there.
Yeah, and we're talking about the Giants heading into this thing, and how because we look at these teams in the Super Bowl, like, all right, how far are the Giants away from this? And you guys covered a playoff game this year, and Dan, before we started recording, we were kind of joking that of these two teams that are in the Super Bowl, if the Giants are going to model themselves after anybody, the Falcons seem like the more realistic model. And I mean, that team, I still don't think they get enough credit for how good they were this year. Maybe it's because they play in Atlanta. Maybe because Matt Ryan, maybe his bland name. I don't know what it is, but that offense, I mean, they remind me of what Peyton Manning was with the Colts, like just how it's a machine, or maybe even the greatest show on turf. Like, this offense is unreal. And it'd be nice if the Giants, for everyone out there listening that just wants them to score a little bit of points, was half the offense the Falcons is.
Yeah, no, I'm guilty of sleeping on the Falcons. I thought they would lose at home to the Packers, and certainly that prediction didn't go that well. Yeah, it's a lot of factors. It is they're kind of just a bland team. Matt Ryan is just so, I don't even know how to describe him.
It's kind of boring.
Yeah, he's just boring. And he puts up good numbers every year, and then they lose in the first round, they don't even make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden it just seems like it's clicked this year for whatever reason. He's obviously playing at an MVP level. I think he'll definitely win that award. But you don't look at him and say that that's Tom Brady or that's Aaron Rodgers. He's just kind of, I don't even know how to describe him. It's just like mechanical. He's very good, but he doesn't do a lot that wows you. He doesn't make those Aaron Rodgers plays where he runs around for 15 seconds and throws something rolling left. He's just so solid. But I mean, that shouldn't be a put down. It's a compliment that he's just
every quarterback should be that.
Yeah, unbelievably efficient. But it's an interesting team because I'm looking at their records here. I mean, they went 4-12, 6-10, 8-8, 11-5. I mean, that's a pretty steady climb. It does show though it's a process. I mean, what the Giants did this year, pretty impressive to go from 6-10 to 11-5, and that usually isn't the case. It usually takes a little bit of time, and the Falcons have proven that. But I think the fact that they haven't been consistently good, it's hard to totally buy in. I mean, obviously what they did to the Packers will turn some heads, but I still have a hard time taking them seriously that they're going to beat the Patriots. And I know that's probably the same thought that people had when the Giants did it. I mean, when you talk about the Patriots dynasty, the Giants are the reason it's not, the hands down greatest dynasty ever. Really, I mean, those 2 years, I mean, that totally disrupted what could have been, obviously the undefeated season, and you said they'd have 6. So maybe the Falcons can do that. It's strange. I just have a hard time, despite what I've seen, still totally buying into this team. I don't even know why that is.
I think it's because when it was the Giants, it was kind of like, I mean, even if obviously the Giants in 2008, those 7 seasons were major underdogs, but I mean, it's the Giants, it's a traditional, powerhouse NFL. I mean, the Falcons, I mean, it's,
they're the Falcons.
They're the Falcons, I mean, look, Atlanta, good team, great quarterback, great offense, but I mean, it's the Falcons.
And it's not just our perception. They're rarely on national TV, every team is, but what I mean? They're rarely, until this year, like that team we talk about.
You don't think of stirring old NFL films episodes with the Falcons.
You think of Jerry Glanville.
The closing of the Georgia Dome. Who had one memory of a great game at the Georgia Dome? You know what I mean?
The Super Bowl when they weren't in it. That's my memory.
I will say this. I think I may have been. Have you guys been to the Georgia Dome?
No.
All right. I've been to the. I went to the Georgia Dome 3 times in the span of 3 months in college. They had the LSU North Carolina kickoff game.
Okay.
Then the South Carolina played in the SEC championship game my junior year, and then they played in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Okay. The Georgia Dome.
College football is what your memory is.
Yeah,
other events, WrestleMania.
Well, no, my biggest
the Final Four.
My biggest, actually, I'll get to my biggest Georgia Dome memory in a second, but it was just a dump. I mean, I don't know if they've changed it, but all the seats. It was almost like they ran around to movie theaters in the greater Georgia, Atlanta area and just took extra seats and nailed them down. All the seats were different colors. It got loud in there, obviously. Open air press box, a multi-tiered, which was kind of cool. But it's just, just ugly looking building.
And now they're building a spaceship next door.
Now they're building a spaceship. And that probably will help the Falcons.
Yeah.
They're going to play in this cool stadium, and they're going to open the stadium with some sort of banner. We'll find out which, when we get to Houston. And I think that's probably going to help the perception of them. They're going to have a, game on Monday Night Football probably. I mean, it might be the kickoff, if they win the Super Bowl. So, but yeah, I just think it's the Falcons. I mean, even when, even with the Eagles, when they played the Eagles, I mean, the Eagles are traditional, there's a lot of history there. And the Falcons, they don't have that. Real quick, my all-time greatest Georgia Dome memory. I think it was second half, and college football fans know that you have those fan sites, the websites that cover the team, and a lot of them do really good work. Other them are just fans who kind of get a free ticket to the game. So South Carolina's Auburn scores, I think it's done at 28 points or something, and one of those fan site guys, he just had enough, and he packs up all his stuff and he just storms out of the press box. Georgia Dome, his face is red, he's so angry. South Carolina 20 years waiting to get to this game, and Cam Newton's just destroying them. And the guy is walking toward the door. I'll never forget, I'm watching this. And he looks to his left, and there's like a stack of Chick-fil-A sandwiches and like brownies. And like he stops, pivots, picks up like 2 sandwiches and brownies, shoves them in his bag, and keeps going out the door.
Well, he wasn't going to get a win. At least he got his food.
He got his food. But no, Georgia Dump. If you've never been there, you didn't miss much. New place looks cool though, but I don't even know what we were talking about at the beginning.
The Falcons.
The Falcons. Anyway, yeah, I think it's part of the problem. I mean, if they obviously Patriots Packers would have big brand name buzz.
Rodgers and the Packers. Yeah.
Patriots Cowboys I think would have been like the Super Bowl to end all Super Bowls, but Patriots Falcons. I mean, people
but this
get
could
excited.
be a good game.
It should be a really good game.
Even Julio Jones. I mean, this guy should be at Odell Beckham level of fame. I don't think the average fan could probably even recognize him in a lineup.
I think he's better than Odell Beckham.
I don't think there's
we can get into. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, look,
And not that there's a big gap. I mean, Odell's right there.
But I don't understand like what the big deal is. Like, it seems like people are saying, well, Julio's the best receiver in the game, and then people who support Odell. I mean, I don't think it's like saying Pedro Martinez was the best pitcher in baseball. I mean, you weren't disrespecting Roger Clemens
or Randy Johnson.
Randy
right?
Johnson.
They're all special.
They're all special. That's what I think it is. I mean, look, I think Julio is the best right now. I think Julio is like 28 or so. Right. So in 2 years, chances are he won't be the best anymore because he'll be up there in age. But I really wish that we had seen Giants Falcons this year, just because I think Julio versus Janoris Jenkins. I mean, it's kind of the matchup that we didn't get this year.
Yeah.
He's the best receiver, and I think Jack Rabbit was probably the best cornerback.
And he would have loved to try to cover him.
Oh, I mean, that would have been great. A great lead into the week. I mean, someone would have said something. I mean, that would have been tremendous theater, I think. So if I'm the Giants, I mean, that's the one matchup I kind of wish we had seen was Giants-Falcons, just because, obviously, their defense versus that offense. But I think Janoris Jenkins versus Julio Jones would have been really something big.
But my point on Julio, though, it's just really remarkable that you can be that talented and, play a premier position. And again, he's like almost an anonymous guy. Like, you never see him really on TV. I don't really picture him doing a lot of interviews, ads, or anything like that. And then you see him on the field. He's every bit as dynamic as Odell or any of these other receivers who get all the attention. It's strange. It kind of feeds into this whole Atlanta thing. And it's like weird. We're kind of disrespecting them in a way, I feel, but we're not. I mean, they're a phenomenal team. Yeah. They just don't have the buzz. But if you look at X's and O's, I mean, this should be a very even game.
And Vegas thinks so. They open as a 3-point line. Like, they're saying it's pretty even.
And it's just funny that just a team to be this good and just not really have that buzz. Again, people like myself were skeptical right up until they just absolutely demolished the Packers. I think that is going to change the perception quite a bit. But it kind of crystallizes with Matt Ryan, who's going to be the MVP, and not a big, commercial guy, not a huge buzz guy. I mean, obviously he's a quarterback, so more so. But Julio should be every bit the star that Antonio Brown is and Odell is. You look at his numbers, and he is. But it's just funny. He just kind of flies under the radar as much as a guy as good as he, it's possible for a guy like that to fly under the radar. He does.
Maybe it's their last names, Jones and Ryan. It's just
it's
just boring.
No, what I think is weird, though, is I was just thinking about this. I mean, I feel like Calvin Johnson was a lot bigger deal than Julio Jones was, and he's in Detroit.
He had the nickname, though, the Megatron.
Yeah, he had the Megatron.
I don't know what it is. It's weird. This happens every once in a while.
I feel like this is like the 2001 World Series. Like, the Falcons are like the Arizona Diamondbacks.
That's a good comparison.
No one's really they're going to lose to this team. Right. And then, hey, well.
They have stars, though, like that team did.
Honestly, right. I get the feeling that I think that I don't know who I'm going to pick yet. I still got 2 weeks, but I think there's a very good chance the Falcons are going to beat the Patriots. I think that even more so in the past, usually when the Patriots go into the Super Bowl, I think you feel pretty good that they're going to win. I think this is like 50-50 because I just look at that offense, and even if Patriots defense is good, I don't know. I just think maybe Dan's right. We're not really respecting them, and all of a sudden it's going to be 24/7 at halftime, and people are going to kind of go, "Whoa, we got this one wrong."
That would surprise me. I think that the Patriots don't really never show up in a big game. They're always going to make it. It would be a good game, I would expect, but I don't think they're going to blow out the Falcons because I think that they are a good team. And even if you think about the Patriots in their Super Bowls, they're always down to the wire, one way or another, win or lose.
Every single one's been close.
Yeah, I can't think of one that wasn't a one-score. I think they've all been one-score games.
The Giants beat them twice. and they beat the Seahawks in the end.
End of the game, and then all the Vinatieri field goals back in the day.
And Donovan screwing up the Eagles' drive.
It'll be. I'd be very surprised if it's not a close game. It just seems that, especially, we're kind of due. These playoffs have been horrible.
We are due for a good game.
There hasn't been a good game.
Outside of the Packers-Cowboys, and the Steelers-Chiefs was close, but
it was 6 field goals.
It wasn't enjoyable at all.
No, the Packers-Cowboys kind of saved the first 3 rounds,
Yeah.
and then we need a good Super Bowl to make up for everything else.
Patriots almost lost the last Super Bowl they were in Houston.
To the Panthers.
That was
Jake Delhomme.
That was almost sleeping on the team. That Panthers team had no buzz, and
for people who are younger that weren't really fans, I mean,
that was the 03 season, right?
Yeah, but my point was, I still don't think people truly appreciate the fact that Jake Delhomme almost single-handedly beat Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Yeah, they went toe-to-toe, too. It was like the third quarter, I think there was like 30 points scored.
And he was down. They were down. I mean, he led them on a fourth-quarter comeback. I mean, people have always kind of made fun of Jake Delhomme. The man almost single-handedly beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
He had a quick little run there where he was.
That was a different Tom Brady, though. He's better later in his career than he was in the beginning.
Yeah, he was the prototypical game manager back then. You look at his playoff stats back then, it was like 200 yards, maybe 2 touchdowns, not a lot of picks, obviously.
Threw it 25 times.
That's always been amazing to me. Like, you never would have thought, even when they had the 3 and 4 years, that Tom Brady was going to go from being, this really good, kind of steely-eyed missile man, quarterback. And then when Moss shows up, he became, the best.
I used to scream and yell that he wasn't as good as Peyton Manning. He wasn't even close. And
Yeah,
now he's past him.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
That 07 season definitely changed him because he showed he could do everything Peyton did. You give him the toys. I mean, every record Peyton has said, he blew out of the water, went 16-0. It kind of was tough to make that argument.
Yeah, it went the other way. It swung. So to the Falcons, and we were talking about them, and in terms of the Giants, right? They were in 11-5. They were in a playoff game. That was it for them. How do they get to where the Falcons are? And is that a good blueprint to try to look at it? I mean, I think about Matt Ryan, right? We were talking about him. He's really good. He's going to win the MVP this year, most likely. But I think most fans, if you line him up, would say, right now, Matt Ryan's better than Eli. But there's not that much difference quarterback-wise in their careers between them. They have Julio Jones. Giants have Odell. Why can't the Giants score like the Falcons, James?
I think, look, the other stuff. I think the Falcons have a better offensive line than the Giants. I think the Giants... kind of broken record. I think they need a tight end. The Falcons have the best fullback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, South Carolina product. So I think
always throwing South Carolina. If you can.
So I think that's something they have. The running game I think is getting there. Obviously, I think obviously the Falcons have more weapons, but I think they also have more weapons in key spots. I think Giants, that's their big goal this offseason, to kind of get this offense back turned around. I don't know if they're ever going to get the offense to be as good as the Atlanta offense. But I think if you get a tight end in there, you solidify the offensive line. They already have the defense. The Giants' defense is much better than the Falcons' defense, so they don't need to have that prolific offense. They just need to be up there. The bottom line is the Giants, when we talked about this, they lost 7 points this year on their points per game average. It's a lot. They don't need to average 33.8 points a game, which is why I think the Falcons, they're averaging 40 in the playoffs. So that's what they have, 33.8, I believe, in the regular season.
It's like we're down, but that just 33.8 in the regular season. They're insane.
They don't need to do that. If they get to 27, I think they're probably going to win 12 or 13 games next year. So that's why I think the Giants have to look. They're going to have to hit those key spots where they know they have weaknesses. That's how they get to the Falcons. Look, I don't think the Giants are all that far off.
No.
And I think that with the right moves, the Giants might show up. Obviously, the Falcons are probably going to be Super Bowl, the NFC favorites, no matter what, because I don't think they're losing a whole lot. They're pretty young. That defense is just going to get better.
The quarterback, obviously, he's not old.
He's not old, but
they are going to lose Kyle Shanahan most likely.
They're going to lose Kyle Shanahan.
That's interesting,
which is a big thing. But look, I think if the Giants play their cards right in the offseason, and we'll talk about this, we got weeks to go. I think you're going to see them show up in training camp, and it's going to be, okay, well, Atlanta and Dallas and Green Bay probably, but I think the Giants are going to be right up there. I think the Giants, their goal this offseason has to be to get to training camp saying, we made the moves necessary, in our opinion, to win the Super Bowl this year. I feel like this year was getting back to the playoffs, kind of reestablishing relevancy. This is a sprint to the Super Bowl. Eli's got, you don't know, this might be the last year for Eli. We talked about him last week. We don't think he's physically declining, but you don't know when that's going to happen. And I think that the Giants are pretty close, but I think they really have to kind of nail down these deficiencies over the next few weeks. Because if they miss this window, I don't know when the next one's going to come around. You just don't know.
The thing about the Falcons offense, really, though, when you look at it, if you line it up on paper against the Giants, it shouldn't be 2 touchdowns better per game. I mean, obviously Matt Ryan played at a much, much higher level than Eli did this season. But again, you talk about their best wide receiver is even with Odell. The number 2 receiver, like Sanu's had a great year, but is he that much better than or more productive than Sterling Shepard was? I mean, I couldn't even name their tight ends. I know they're better than the Giants almost by default.
Whoever they have.
Yeah, I mean, their running backs are better. I mean, clearly that's a nice 2-headed monster they've done.
But it's not like they have first rounders there.
Right, they did a good job. That's why I'm so against first-round running back. Unless it's Ezekiel Elliott. They got, 3rd and 4th round guys there. They're both solid, good players. They fit in well. I think the offensive line is probably underrated how much of a difference. I mean, we haven't underrated how big of a problem the Giants' offensive line was. That was a huge problem. I think the Falcons' offensive line definitely is a big advantage they would have if you match them up with the Giants. But I watched that game, and I know I've been banging this drum all season. It's that they just played a much more multiple offense, too. I mean, I haven't watched a ton of Falcons game, and you see them come out, and it's Matt Ryan's under center with 2 tight ends and a fullback. The next play he's in the gun with 4 wide receivers. They just are so multiple.
There's creativity there.
Exactly, and it's tough for defenses to defend. I think when Ben McAdoo sits down, he's already done it, I'm sure. He's in the process of it, and just looks at what went wrong this season. I don't know how he can rectify the way they ran the same offense play in and play out, and it didn't work, and they just never changed. I know people are going to say that there was personnel shortcomings, but I think they handicapped themselves by not just mixing it up a little bit more. And again, not the answer to everything, because again, the Falcons do have better offensive line, better running backs, but just watching the way their offense operated was just like, this is, and the Patriots obviously the same way. Patriots kind of set the mold. They never come out in the same thing. You don't know if it's going to be a LeGarrette Blount game or it's going to be a Tom Brady throwing 50 times.
Never know.
But I just think that is so vitally important to mix it up, and that's the thing that really jumped out to me. Why is this Falcons offense so efficient? Because what are they going to do? You don't know. They're going to pound it. They're going to throw it deep. They're going to use Sanu on all those underneath routes. I mean, I've never seen receivers so open, and that was kind of jarring.
Wide open.
This is the team that the Giants scored 13 points against 2 weeks ago. I know it's a little different conditions, and I know the Packers are a little bit more banged up, but my goodness, I mean, they could barely move the ball against these guys, or when they did move the ball, they'd have a big drop or whatnot. But that was pretty jarring just to see the difference and just how much better the Falcons' offense operated.
Should the Giants fans listening to us right now feel good about the Giants' chances moving forward, or worried off what you said a few minutes ago, James? Because you're right, the window's open. The NFC doesn't the Patriots almost like. If you're an AFC team trying to crack that, it's so hard. Outside of the Steelers, whoever Peyton Manning played for, and the Pats, outside of the Ravens, who always were kind of wedging their way in, nobody else cracks in the AFC. And then I heard during Sunday's game, the Packers game against the Falcons, I think the Falcons are the 12th NFC representative of the last 16 years. Like, the NFC's always way more wide open. Yet, you're saying, with Eli, feel good or not? Because the window is open, but it's not open very long. It feels like the Falcons' window is just opening, the Cowboys just opening, the Packers is open, Seahawks is still open. I don't know how long Giants is going to be open.
I think you should feel good about 2017. I don't know if you want to feel good about what's coming down the pike.
1 year.
But then again, I mean, look, you got to pick and choose. I mean, the bottom line is they missed the playoffs 4 straight years in like 6 or 7 years. I mean, this is what they're in.
Sprinkled in a Super Bowl.
Made
everyone forget. Yeah.
Made everyone forget. I mean, look, they're getting out of crunch time here with Eli and everything, and they got to pay guys. JPP, Hankins are free agents. They're going to be able to bring back Richburg and Pugh. How are they going to work that out? Odell's going to need a contract at some point. Landon Collins isn't. I mean, they got some challenges, but this is, I think, is a year for them to kind of put as much of it together as possible and make a run at the Super Bowl. I think the Giants should watch this game in 2 weeks, saying our goal is to be there next year. They talked about it a lot this year. They seem very comfortable talking about it, but I don't think I know people were kind of saying, the Giants get the Super Bowl. I mean, I never really thought they were a Super Bowl team this year. I thought they would beat the Packers, but I didn't know if they would necessarily get there.
Yeah, all year long you guys were saying that. There was a ceiling here. We didn't know what it was.
We didn't know what it was.
Didn't really say Super Bowl.
Next year, I think that they will show up legitimately saying, well, the ceiling is the Super Bowl. I mean, they have to take care of business in the offseason, but yeah, I mean, I think you should feel really good about next year and the potential they have. But I mean, you're right. I don't think you look at this Giants team and say that their window is as open or will stay open as these other teams. But then again, it's the NFL and things change so quickly that, if they hit it big and they somehow get a quarterback, I mean, the whole thing could flip.
Yeah, no, I think that you got to feel good going into next year just because of the defense. I mean, JPP and Hankins are pretty much the only big guys they need to worry about, and I think they'll at least bring one of them back, if not both. But the fact that so many of that core of that defense is young. I mean, Landon Collins, Janoris Jenkins, Olivier Vernon, Snacks Harrison, all these guys are in their prime, not going anywhere.
A lot of years left.
Yeah, and you get a guy like Darian Thompson back who might have been a little bit of a missing piece this year. Eli Apple is going to get better. You go on and on. The defense is pretty much in place. I mean, again, you need to make sure you address JPP or, find a suitable replacement. That's a big piece. But other than that, you got to feel good about kind of the bones of that defense. And then it comes down to the offense. I think that's where, Reese, you can't fix, 4 years worth of mistakes in one offseason. He did a good job. Obviously, he hit it out of the park with everything he did really last offseason. He needs to be just as good this offseason on the other side of the ball because, like James said, the window isn't that wide open. But if they can, find a left tackle somehow, whether it's a veteran free agent, I think that's probably going to be the route they're going to have to go, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to get a franchise left tackle at 23. Fill in, find a veteran wide receiver or even a young wide receiver to kind of take Victor Cruz's spot. Maybe find a running back somewhere. I mean, there's a lot of pieces there on that offense that aren't that far away, but he's going to have to hit it, and it's not going to be as easy as just kind of backing up the Brinks truck like he did last offseason with the defense. But I think you should feel good going into next offseason, again, just because of where that defense is and the fact that, you still have Eli Manning, and he's still capable. He showed it in that Packers game, and he showed it in flashes during the season, but I think you should feel good going into next year. But like you said, the window's not going to be open for too long, so you better make it count right now.
Yeah, it's not forever. Let's end on this. The one thing that I took away from the postseason, among the quarterbacks dominating, home teams dominate, right? They were 8-2, I think, in the 10 games, and the only 2 times the road team won, it was barely, right? The Steelers barely beat the Chiefs, partially because Andy Reid flubbed the clock, and then Aaron Rodgers just stole one from the Cowboys. How about that for next year with the Giants? Like, we can talk about the talent level between these teams in the NFC, but the Giants never seem to have that, or they don't capitalize when they did. 2008, they had the best record, and they lost in their first playoff game. Should that be a big goal for next year? To win at least win the division, which I know they'll say is the goal, but it makes a difference if you have a bye and home field. Like, the Giants always seem to make it hard on themselves. They've won 2 Super Bowls going on the road, so everyone's like, no big deal. But it is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I think the bye helps. I mean, it's funny because this Giants team this year was not a good road team.
Right, they were really good at home.
They were good at home, which I've always kind of look. I mean, no offense to Giants fans, but I've never felt like MetLife Stadium presents one of the great home field advantages in the NFL.
It's not like Seattle.
No, it's not like Seattle but then again, I feel like this is sort of overrated because everyone talks about Arrowhead. Well, I mean,
they lost.
The Chiefs lost to the Titans at Arrowhead Stadium,
and they haven't won a playoff game since Joe Montana was
exactly.
There.
So, how great could this be? I mean, when I think about home field advantage, I think Seattle is one. I do think Pittsburgh has some of that. I would say I think the Patriots have some of that. Minnesota, definitely.
But just having to win less games.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for them. I do think that this is not a very good road team. And I know they beat the Cowboys in week 1 and people kind of hang their hat. But I do think there are certain, I think to win on the road, people say, well, defense travels. And that's true. You also have to be able to kind of control the clock, run the ball. This Giants team didn't do that this year. And, I mean, even if they add a guy, I mean, I have a hard time believing the Giants are going to suddenly show up and be like a top 5 rush offense next year. So I do think in that sense that it's important. This team is better off being at home. But then again, they'll get a bye, and it's like, well, they're going to come out flat like they did in 08 against the Eagles, So I personally think the kind of home and away, bye, no bye, I think it's somewhat overrated in the sense that the best team's going to win. I mean, look at the Cowboys were at home, but I don't think they have a tremendous home field advantage in Dallas. And then they were kind of flat. I just think there's so many variables involved, but I do think that you want to be home, and I think this Giants team probably is better being at home. But then again, I could see them getting a bye and then being flat off the bye week, and people going, what the heck just happened? So it's tough. I don't think it's imperative, but it would be a good idea to kind of push for that bye next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost just simple math too. You'd rather just be one of the top 2 teams to have a bye,
let
alone
the Patriots every year. They
you just save a week right there, and so you're already a leg up in the divisional round. And I mean, I think if you go back through the years, I mean, I haven't done this, but I think I feel pretty comfortable. The teams that get the byes make the Super Bowl more often than not. I would assume. Obviously, there's outliers like the Giants, but year in, year out. I mean, it's a simple fact, too, because the reason you get the bye is because you were the best team all season. It's
Right.
not a fluke, usually. I
And
mean,
you get a home game.
right. I mean, it was nice. Atlanta kind of lucked in there at 11-5. It wasn't like they had a 13-3 type of season.
And then
but,
the number 1 seed lost, so they got the title.
yeah, so things can obviously break your way. So you just want to put yourself in the best possible position. Obviously, I don't think anyone's goal is, we'll just take the wild card and go on the road. I mean, that's obviously, if you have to do it that way, you have to do it that way. But like I said, I think history tells you that if you win the division, you have a bye, you have a home game, you're just going to be in better position, and of course that should be the goal.
Yeah, it should. So the Giants have to look at these two teams and try to put themselves there, and we have a whole offseason to talk about it. So the offseason, all this stuff's coming up now, right? So we have the Senior Bowl going on this week, and the Super Bowl next week. James, you're going to be down there as one of our many at the Super Bowl for NJ.com?
Yes, Team NJ.com will be down there. Obviously, Super Bowl media night or whatever, opening night they call it, will be Monday.
Oh, it's a TV thing now.
Big TV thing. Minute Maid Park, so I guess I'm going to maybe get to run up the wall. Is the walls, is the kind of berm
The
still
hill?
there? The hill's still
They took
there?
the hill out.
They took the hill. I mean,
It's not even there anymore.
Man, but
You could try anyway.
I could try anyway. That'll be there. I assume, some of the Giants, big name Giants will probably be around, media row, kind of try to catch up with those guys, see what the buzz is, talk to, obviously everyone in the league will be there, kind of see what's going on. But yeah, just see what happens. Patriots, Falcons, and should be a good one down in Houston. Never been to Houston, so go check that out.
Should be fun. All right, we'll be back soon doing another podcast and getting you guys ready for the offseason, and which should be a very interesting one around the Giants. They look for a quarterback behind Eli and a whole bunch of other things to put this team over the top. James, thanks for being in studio.
Thank you, Joe. This is kind of fun. It was kind of awkward at first. I'm used to like the pauses, on the phone and everything. But it was kind of cool. We should do this again sometime.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah. Nice to have a conversation a little bit
face to face.
There you go.
And thanks to all of you for listening to episode 82 of Talk is Cheap. You can subscribe on iTunes, Twitter, SoundCloud, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're there. We'll be back soon right here on NJ.com.